BTS discusses disbandment, Jungkook is shocked, Taehyung opens up about the future of BTS. Before we dive into this story, one filled with confessions, raw emotion, and a moment that left Jungkook visibly shaken, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. On this channel, we explore the untold stories behind the world's most fascinating artists, events, and mysteries, and today, we're going deeper than ever before. Now, let's begin. The revelation didn't start with a dramatic press conference or a sudden announcement. It began quietly, almost too quietly, behind closed doors during a late-night discussion that would later ripple through the fandom like an unexpected tremor. The members of BTS had gathered after a long day, their schedules weighing heavily on them, the chaos of fame having carved invisible marks across their faces. Their journey, filled with triumphs that shattered records and expectations alike, had reached a moment where they needed to ask themselves a question few artists of their magnitude ever dare confront. What happens after the peak? RM, ever the thoughtful leader, was the one who breathed life into the delicate topic. His voice was calm, reflective, like someone placing a fragile artifact on a table. He spoke about time, about legacy, about the reality that even the brightest stars eventually change shape. His words weren't a warning, they were an invitation. An invitation to honesty. Jungkook shifted in his seat, his normally steady gaze flickering. For him, BTS wasn't just a group, it was home, destiny, the universe that shaped the person he became. The thought of everything changing, even slightly, hit him like a cold wave. And perhaps that's why the moment caught him off guard. Disbandment. The word alone felt like a betrayal of the past and a thief of the future. But that night wasn't about endings. Not exactly. It was about truth. Taehyung sat with his hands loosely clasped, the gold warmth of the lamp beside him highlighting the uncertainty painting his expression. He had always been the one with a dreamy view of the world, someone who could soften reality with imagination. But this time, he didn't shy away. Instead, he leaned into the moment. He spoke slowly, thoughtfully, his voice carrying the weight of years lived under an unforgiving spotlight. He talked about the future. Not the glamorous future splashed across magazine covers, but a quieter, more vulnerable one. A future where each member discovers who they are beyond the phenomenon known as BTS. Where their individuality isn't something postponed but explored. He didn't speak of disbandment as an ending, but as a transformation. Still, Jungkook's reaction was immediate. His eyes widened, his breath caught, and for a split second, he looked like someone who had stepped too close to the edge of a cliff. The youngest member, who had spent most of his life as part of this brotherhood, was hearing something he had always known might come one day but never wanted to confront. Why is it that the more we love something, the more terrifying the thought of change becomes? This question echoed silently through the room, and through the hearts of millions who would later learn pieces of this conversation through interviews and documentaries, their words fragmented yet heavy with meaning. And in that moment, as the group spoke openly about pressures, dreams, and the unknown, it became clear that even legends are human. Their journey had been meteoric, almost supernatural in its velocity. They rose from a small company in South Korea to become a global cultural force, influencing music, fashion, philanthropy, and even political discourse. Scientists have studied fandom behavior using BTS as a case example, comparing the emotional cohesion of ARMY to historical social movements. Economists wrote papers about the BTS effect, with their impact on national GDP measured in billions. No modern artist had ever generated such interconnected ripple effects. So when a group this influential even whispers about the future, the world listens. The conversation that night drifted between quiet confessions and bursts of laughter, the kind that surfaces when you're overwhelmed and trying to keep the mood from collapsing under its own weight. Jimin spoke about fear, the fear of not knowing who he would be without the constant rhythm of touring and performing. Suga shared thoughts about artistry, about wanting to experiment with sounds that didn't fit neatly within the BTS identity. Jin teased the others to lighten the atmosphere but didn't hide his own reflective mood. J-Hope, the group's emotional anchor, reminded everyone that growth was not abandonment. But it was Taehyung's soft but resolute admission that cracked open the truth of the moment. The future is coming whether we're ready or not, so we need to shape it before it shapes us. The room fell silent again, but it wasn't the same silence that had begun the night. This silence was heavier, richer, the kind that follows honesty. And Jungkook, still processing, still wrestling with the thought, finally found words. But those words, we'll get to them. Because what came next was a turning point, a shift in the energy of the room. A moment when everything the members had built together, every stage, every sacrifice, every tear shed in green rooms and hotel corridors, seemed to converge into one fragile question. Were they ready to imagine BTS not as a single path, but as many? And just when the tension reached its peak, the kind of emotional pressure that feels like the air before a storm, something unexpected happened. But to understand that moment, to understand the shock that flickered across Jungkook's face and the revelation Taehyung shared about what lies ahead. What happened next didn't unfold like a dramatic explosion, but rather like a quiet revelation, the kind you only recognize as life-changing when you look back on it later. As the members sat together, the weight of their words still lingering in the air, Jungkook leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes lowered. His voice, when it finally emerged, was softer than anyone expected. He admitted he was scared. Not of performing, not of failing, not even of disappointing the world. But scared of losing the one thing he felt he was born to do alongside the 6 people who shaped him into the artist and person he is now. His confession stunned the room into stillness. Jungkook had always been the confident one, the one who devoured challenges as if they were fuel. But vulnerability has a strange power, it invites others to match it. RM nodded slowly, almost with a sense of relief, as though Jungkook had spoken the truth everyone felt but hadn't dared articulate. Suga's expression softened. Jimin reached out, lightly squeezing Jungkook's shoulder, as if grounding him back into the moment. And then, unexpectedly, it was Taehyung who broke the silence, not with comfort, but with something far more piercing. He said that being scared didn't mean something was ending. It meant something was beginning. His words hung in the air with a strange serenity. He spoke about the seasons, how spring never apologizes for following winter, and how change isn't destruction, but renewal. If this video made you think, feel, or question what lies ahead for the world's biggest group, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. The future of BTS might still be unwritten, but together, we're witnessing history in real time. Thank you for watching.